It's January 1st, 2024, and I'm taking some time tonight. It's very late, it's the end of the day, to reflect upon my 46 years on this earth and some of the things I've been through. And I wanted to talk a little bit about the fact that I've had 6 miscarriages. I'm very blessed to have 3 daughters who are here on earth with us, and I don't ever take that for granted at all. I've had 6 losses. The first one was in November of 2001, and the last one was in the beginning of October 2016. My latest loss, and probably one of my most difficult ones, was with our son Daniel, who I lost 17 weeks and 5 days into the pregnancy. It was very unexpected and shocking. I had never known anybody in my life to ever have a loss advanced into a pregnancy like that. So I didn't even know what to essentially expect, other than things I had saw in books, and I was a doula at the time. But I lost Daniel in November of 2000. That was my second loss. But I've pulled down Daniel's memory box, and I will share a few things, not everything. And it'll, I'm sure, stir emotions. It's been 19 years. 19 years. You never get over losing your baby. I know miscarriage is very common, and oftentimes it wasn't really ever spoken about too much. I know in my time, it was kind of like a taboo thing. Like you just don't talk about it. And I had been criticized. I was different. I talked about him. I actually used to have a Doula Pam YouTube channel, and I had a video out about him, but some of the horrific and horrible things people wrote in the comments about. Here in the state of Pennsylvania, all losses 16 weeks and over are considered a stillbirth. So they give you a death certificate, and you have the right to choose a burial for your child. We had chosen to take our baby and have him buried on family land, which unfortunately has been sold. So I can't even go visit his resting place any longer. I'm going to try to maybe show you a little bit of what I'm looking at. I just give a heed of like a little caution here that if you are sensitive to these sorts of things, I don't know what I'll share, but obviously my child was dead when he was born. He had been passed for about 2 weeks in utero before he was born. So there's changes that happen. There's on ultrasound, peaceful. Here was a poem I put in here that I'll share with everyone. There was no author or title, but it was about a baby's passing. So I'm going to read that. I thought of you and closed my eyes and prayed to God today. I asked, what makes a mother? And I know I heard him say, a mother has a baby. This we know is true. But God, can you be a mother when your baby's not with you? Yes, you can, he replied with confidence in his voice. I give many women babies. When they leave, it's not their choice. Some I send for a lifetime and others for a day. Some I send to feel in your womb, but there's no need to stay. I just don't understand this. God, I want my baby here. He took a breath and cleared his throat, and then I saw a tear. I wish I could show you what your children is doing today. If you could see your child smile with other children and say, we go to earth to learn our lessons of love and life and fear. My mommy loved me oh so much. I got to come straight here. I feel so lucky to have a mom who had so much love for me. I learned my lesson quickly, and my mommy set me free. I miss my mommy oh so much, but I visit her each day. When she goes to sleep on her pillows where I lay, I stroke her hair and kiss her cheek and whisper in her ear, Mommy, don't be sad today. I'm your baby and I'm here. So you see, my dear sweet one, your children are okay. Your babies are here in my home, and this is where they'll stay. They'll wait for you with me until your lesson there is through. And on the day that you come home, they'll be at the gates for you. So now you see what makes a mother. It's the feeling in your heart. It's the love you had so much of right from the very start. Though some on earth may not realize until their time is done, remember all the love you have and know you are a special mom. And I honestly don't know if our babies get to come and see us, but I'll tell you, after I lost Daniel, these painted lady butterflies, they would land on me. This happened for so many years, even up to just sometimes even recently in the summer and stuff. They'll just come and they'll land on me. Who knows? It could just be they want a taste of salty sweat. I don't know, but for me, it always reminds me of Daniel. And the one and only tattoo I have ever gotten is of a butterfly, and I had it done in the colors of our wedding back in 1999, the teal and the purple, in remembrance of him. You never forget your child. You always wonder, what would they be doing now? What would they look like? What would their voice sound like? What would their interests be and their talents? Thank you. Each sheet of paper is from somebody writing me how he touched their life, because I used to have him on the internet. I can't even begin to count. I had gone to share groups after I had lost him. It was very helpful to be with other people who understood what I was going through. The internet was not even, I don't think, maybe I just didn't know what I was doing, nearly as big as what it is now, 19 years later. Like, here's a little ornament that they gave us. Because I lost him in November. We were obviously getting close to, well, we were near the holidays. And I remember them saying, it's okay if you don't feel like decorating for Christmas or things. But I had my daughter, Caitlin, who was going to be, I think she was 3 at the time. Yeah, she was 3. She was 3.5, actually. You know, I didn't know if I'd ever have any more children at this point. And I got to be honest with you, after I had given birth to Daniel, I felt a peace that I cannot even describe in words that I had. When I was in labor with him, I cried a lot to God. I cried out. I punched the wall. I couldn't understand why he would do this to me. I couldn't understand it. And I begged God to let everything go okay, that I would be able to give birth to him. Because once the baby is past a certain gestation, the biggest risk is the skull lacerating the cervix. And the county I'm in did not offer any sort of D&E procedure, which I personally didn't want that anyhow. And because I had a very complicated induction that turned into a cesarean that needed additional surgeries with my daughter, I was cautious about using induction agents. I didn't know what it would do. Obviously, my uterus wasn't carrying a full-term baby, so it probably reduced my risk of anything happen, but I was very scared of like uterine rupture or anything of the sort. So fortunately, I ended up not needing any medications or anything. We were going to start them, but my body took care of it then after my water broke. And it was kind of crazy. Maybe I should back up a little bit. What prompted me to go to be seen was I started spotting, like brown blood, and I started having contractions. I thought, this is so weird. Like, why would I have this? Prior to this, I had been really sick for weeks with the flu and a high temperature and everything. And the last time I felt the baby move was the night after that we went trick-or-treating the night before, and then the next day I was at my friend's baby shower, and it just felt like bam into my uterus. Like it just felt like the whole body of the baby just went into the front of my uterus, and it made me jump. I had not felt such a strong movement before, and in my heart I feel like that was the last moments that he was alive. I think I went and they did the ultrasound. Obviously Daniel was passed away, and this was a little card someone had sent me from one of the support groups I went to. But I met with several different OBs, and they were really surprised at my knowledge. But because I was a doula, I think that's probably why I was passionate about helping women achieve a good birth experience, no matter what happened as far as the birth went. And I met with one OB after that same day, and we discussed the options that I had for as far as induction went. And then I spoke on the phone with another obstetrician who worked with an OB that I had that helped repair damages done from the first cesarean. And she was giving me some other options as far as trying to do a surgical extraction that would, because they wanted me to go to a large city to have it done. And then I was like, no, I don't want to do that. So then through the night, things were picking up on their own. And then by early morning hours, I called my best friend who was also a doula, and we kind of worked together in our business. And she came and she stayed with me. And then it was early afternoon when I finally went in to the hospital, because I was becoming very tired from not sleeping, and I couldn't understand. This baby's small. Why isn't it coming out? What is taking so long? I mean, I lost mucus plug, everything. I'm thinking, how far dilated would I even need to be to give birth to this little baby? So I went in there, and I don't remember the details, how I faced or anything I was. I just know, I think he said 1 centimeter, and we talked about doing something like Cervidil, and that was fine. But I was really contracting hard at this point. So by the time they got me up to the room, the labor and delivery room, man, did I ever get hit with a gnarly contraction. I was like over the table. I couldn't even get to the bed. They just were coming and coming and coming. And then, I don't know, at one point, the bed was just sat up in like this, it almost looks like a seat, the way they can sit these beds. And I'm sitting on there, and no, I wasn't there. 19 years ago. I'm sure if I read my birth story in here, it would tell the details. I was on the birthing ball. And at the end of a contraction, I felt a pop. And I said, I felt a pop, but nothing came out. So I got up and I got onto the bed again, and it was sat up like a seat. And I had another contraction. And it just, the water shot up and out. And it had like that dead blood color in it. It was very scary. I'm not going to lie. It was scary. It was, even my doula, she had never been in a situation like this before. So we didn't know what to expect. And then an hour later was when I had him. And again, you don't know what to expect. And when they handed him to me, it almost seemed like he could move at any second. But I didn't say that out loud to anyone. And then later, my doula, when she was so precious, she got pictures. She took pictures. She brought pictures over the next day and visited me. And she said to me about how it seemed like he would just move, you know? A perfect, perfect baby. And I'll never remember at the end, like the little, I moved the chin because I saw the tongue, and I saw the perfect little tongue. Everything was so perfect. The little fingers, the little fingernails, the little ears, everything, the little feet. And that was my baby. And saying goodbye to him was super, super hard. It was one of the hardest goodbyes I had to say. And I'm back down to my little Teeny tiny little feet. There's my husband holding him. My mom holding him. This was the first moment they handed him to me in the blanket. Somebody had crocheted this beautiful blanket and gave that to the hospital for people that are going through what I went through. And it's my daughter putting artificial flowers on his grave after he was buried. My grandfather, who recently passed away, had made a beautiful cross. And then I put the little things on it and shellacked them over. It took about 15 minutes after he was born for the placenta to be born. They were getting the OR ready because I was passing extremely large clots. And even when they weighed him and stuff, he was all just really dried up. And there we were saying goodbye before we left the hospital that day. This was the little memory box from the hospital. This is the pregnancy test I took. It still has the mark, the dye mark. How long he was. Gave me a little bracelet. Little heart to remember. And they wrote a card, and like I said, they tried doing the handprints and feet prints, and they didn't even turn out right because he was so dried till they did it. I wish I would have known about that because I would have just had them do it hours before. They're very delicate. I had cut his face out of here. I don't know what's in here anymore. Little gown. And a little blanket that you could swallow your baby in. This is the actual fabric that they had him in, if memory serves me right. I wanted to put that on him when the chaplain brought him home to the house, but he had changed so much because I had to send him to pathology. Isn't this beautiful? This is some precious woman, probably a woman who has experienced loss. These women make this stuff and just, they really are touching. My friend who was my doula made me this for him, and she made one for my daughter to use for her dolls, and she made one because I was pregnant with Kaya, who is my second born daughter. We had had matching blankets. So as you can see, even 19 years later, he still is on my mind. And one other thing, I would think my second difficult and scary loss was with my daughter, Lily, my youngest daughter. I was pregnant with twins. And I didn't really know, because when we had the ultrasound, they only saw one baby, but it was weird because I am very much into tracking my cycles and recording everything. And the baby was measuring way behind where it was supposed to. I think like 11 days, I think it was. I'd have to look back. And in the 12th week of pregnancy, I had one of the most horrific hemorrhages. It was so terrifyingly scary. I was just soaked through with blood, and I felt something come out of me into the toilet then when I got to the bathroom, and I fished it out, and it was a placenta with a sac. The sac was like the size of maybe like $50. And inside I saw the little white baby, and I'll try to put that on here so you can see too, but it was terrifying. And I went to the OB, and he took everything. They made me wait in the waiting room, which was awful because I was surrounded by pregnant women, and I was terrified at what just occurred because it looked like a crime scene. You know, I had to clean myself up and clean all the mess up. My husband was frantic too. We were scared. We didn't understand what happened. Again, my best friend, who was also my doula, came with me. My mom watched my oldest daughter for me, and actually I had two kids then. I had Kaya, which I had her all. Kaya was born almost a year to the day, 1 year after I had Daniel. And then anyhow, back to Lily, when I lost her twin, it was so scary because I went in there and he opened the sack up, and he's like, there was nothing in it. And he must have just threw it in the trash because I had everything in a jar. And then he had to get approval from the insurance to be able to do an ultrasound again, since I just had one 12 days prior to this. And when they took me in, they said, well, we're not going to turn the screen on for you unless it's good. And when they had the ultrasound wand, it was an internal ultrasound, and there was this baby, and the baby was on track for growth. So, and I was just happy about that, but I was still threatened to miscarriage her because I had a lot of blood and stuff at the cervix, and they could see all that on the ultrasound, and they told me I had to rest. But I bled for 3 more weeks with her. I passed mucus plugs, sometimes as big as my pinky finger, and being on bed rest with 2 little kids was not easy. And there were times that I would have such terrible cramping and contracting, and I'd be like so scared, and the OBs were like, there's nothing we can do. There's nothing we could do. They didn't offer to try to put a stitch. They didn't, nothing. But by the grace of God, I was able to carry Lily to term, and I have this beautiful, beautiful daughter that I always say is my breath of fresh air. And she's 15 years old now. So God was good for to me, and he answered my prayers. And I hope that he answers your prayers. I really do. I wrote a blog post once about the pieces of my heart in heaven. And it's true. And it's a bittersweet experience. Life is fleeting. It's sometimes shocking how fast time goes. Share with me your experiences, losses that you've had, ways you've honored your children that are no longer here on this earth. Did you write to them? Did you write about them? Did you sing songs to them? Have you dreamt of them? Do you do artwork? Did you get a tattoo?
in honor and memory of them? Do you say their name and honor them? They have existed, and I would love to hear their name and celebrate their life with you, no matter how short it was. They're very impacting, even when they're so tiny.